And welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and Chris Rael is my guest, as you can see, and he's got himself a sitar, as we call them, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about sitars and music in India and all those kind of things, and your music and your bands. So welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Paul.
Great to have you on.
Thanks.
And my gosh, I don't know where to start. Let's start with you, Chris Rael. You've been around for a while. You have a band?
I do. It's called Church of Betty.
Right.
I've been playing in town for about 30 years.
Okay. What are you playing next?
Actually, I've got a little bit of a breather. We just had a huge concert. We did like our 30th anniversary concert recently, and it was a big one. So now we're kind of taking a little breather and writing some more songs. Yeah.
Right, great. Mm-hmm. All right, and it was the 30th anniversure of the Tompkins Square Park riot too. Was there a connection? Or was it happening outside?
It was all just happening at the same. Yeah, I remember those riots well.
Yeah, right. So it was right around 30 years ago, right?
That's time, those were the days, huh, Paul?
Yeah. They sure were. They still are, I guess.
Yeah, coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, where did you find your sitar?
Well, when I was in my 20s, I had the travel bug and wanted to go hiking in the Himalaya. It was actually headed for Nepal, but went through India on the way.
So I've been calling it the wrong thing. It's not the Himalayas.
I think they're both okay.
But they say Himalayas or Himalayas, right?
Yeah.
The big high mountains.
Yeah, those real tall ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and So I was on my way there, and I went through India, and just kind of fell in love with the culture of the country. And when I came back to New York, I was trying to find a place where I could find like a Hindi tutor, and I went to this professor at Columbia, language professor.
That's the language of India, one of the languages.
Yes, one of the many languages of India. And she allowed me to monitor her class, and I ended up dating somebody in the class who went on an exchange program to a school in Varanasi, which is in the north along the Ganga River. So I went over there, and I met a wonderful, wonderful sitar teacher, and I studied Hindustani classical singing with a great master, and kept going back for a couple months a year for like 10 years in a row. Yeah, but I am not a classical player. I will not play classical music for our audience because what I did was I learned techniques and I brought them into my own composition. So at this point, I haven't played classical music in many years, and I've
classical Indian music.
Classical Indian music.
Right, Ravi Shankar.
Ravi Shankar can do lots of things that I do not do.
Right.
But
now Ravi Shankar. I mean, some people
probably
they might not know who he was. The younger people in the audience. He was famous for playing in many places, but I came in touch with him because of the concert for Bangladesh that George Harrison gave.
Yes.
And one whole side of this huge 3-album set was Ravi Shankar playing the sitar.
That's right. And
everybody had to have a sitar after that.
Yeah. I think that contact with the Beatles probably made him the most famous sitarist in the world. Right. He certainly had many rivals within the classical music audience of India. Mm-hmm. You know, like that people would debate who was the greatest, and he's always like in the discussion.
And those wonderful drums that they accompany
the tabla.
Tabla, right?
Yeah.
Right. John McLaughlin, who used to do Mahavishnu Orchestra, had called Sakti, and I saw him a couple of times.
Yes.
And they were playing pots. Pots.
Yeah. That's a South Indian thing. And Shankar, who played violin with McLaughlin, that's a very distinct tradition from the Hindustani style. In the north.
Was amazing. So that was after he got out of the electric and he got into it was an acoustic thing, right? Really.
Yeah.
So again, I always love it. Glad to have you here, Chris Rael, because I love the music, and if people haven't discovered this music, this is your opportunity to discover it. What is a sitar?
Well, this is a gourd. It's a dried pumpkin, and this is teak wood, and basically they adhere the wood. You see this like leafy stuff here is like sort of joined to the gourd, and then it has a teak neck, and the frets are raised, unlike a guitar, where you guitarists know they're flat. They're raised, and that's what you do to bend the string.
You get that sound, that classical sound, that classic sound.
Yeah,
iconic sound is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So it's because this is like really hollow and really thin wood, and the neck is actually also hollow and has space in it. It's not a solid neck like on most guitars. So this allows it to resonate. These strings underneath are tuned into a scale with the notes that you play on the top, and that's how you get the buzzy, resonant thing.
I see. How long does it take to tune a sitar?
It's a never-ending thing.
I see. You're just constantly doing it.
Right?
The tuning is sort of like it's like you're playing when you're tuning it.
Yeah. They're very sensitive to changes in temperature. You know, the lights in our studio here kind of change it a little bit. So like I'll kind of tweak it. You tune it. You fine tune it with these little devices down here. They just like really fine tune it. These pegs also are tuners. This is for the sympathetic strings underneath. The big ones are for the strings on the top.
I see. Wow, that's amazing. So you're always constantly tuning away, right?
Yeah. If you see like a classical Indian performance, you'll see the guys. They just stop in the middle and tune. They just keep on tuning and keep going.
Right,
Yeah.
And so, how do you use this? Do you use it individually, like a folk guitar, and then play songs, or do you use it in a band?
I use it in my band. I use it in a really non-traditional way. We don't need it tonight, but this is like a pickup that so that I can amplify it, because I play with rock instruments, bass, drums, electric guitar, and then Church of Betty has like a large orchestra, like a pop orchestra has like violin, viola, cello, bassoon, English horn.
Wow.
So it's a big sound. So this has to cut through all of that sound.
Right, and give it that feel, that India feel.
Yeah. And
tabla, playing the Black Keys.
Yeah. I just want to. He's out of town right now. I just want to give a shout out to my tabla partner Deep Singh, who's been playing with me for years and years and years. One of the finest tabla players in the world, frankly, but certainly
it's
North
not
America.
like playing the conga drum.
No.
It's a classical instrument.
No, he's a wildcat. Give him some
30 years. Now, does it take? I mean, they used to say Ravi Shankar spent 30 years learning this instrument. Does it take 30 years to learn to play it, or 30 years to perfect it? Does it really take that long to learn to play it?
Well, I guess it's like actually in this context, learning to play and perfecting are almost they're similar. Because they have the classical players, like my sitar teacher, for example, he's a very, very, very accomplished person. He's like all India radio artist, and one of the things that always impressed me about him, and that I always loved about him, is he always approached his instrument with the humility of a student, and it was always from the attitude of like, what can I do to get better, And these are like the classical people like me. I just kind of take what I learn and like apply it in a different context, different creative context.
Want to show us something?
Sure.
Show us what it sounds like.
Yeah. So,
what are you going to be playing?
It's in tune. Well, I'll just play you a little short instrumental, just so you can hear the instrument.
Right. I keep thinking of Strawberry Fields Forever.
Yeah, you could. Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to. Okay, I don't really know.
Right. That was a good John line.
So, but there's a little melody that I wrote. There's a little piece.
Cool.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So you wrote that.
Yeah.
How did you get into actually composing and writing for for sitar?
Well, as a composer, I was composing music. I'm a guitarist too, and not John McLaughlin, but like I would write on guitar, and I kind of came to it late, and I didn't have like I didn't show a lot of like tremendous like natural talent for it when I started. So like I sort of approached composition with how can I use my brain to make great music, like more than my hands.
Right.
So I was like always interested in like combining sounds that hadn't been combined, dissonance, like mashing chords together that people usually think are ugly, but making them beautiful, this kind of thing.
See.
And so I was just always on the lookout for new sounds. So when I got into this, and this is nothing like a guitar. Like,
does it translate at all? Like when you you don't get better at guitar by playing sitar more, or better at sitar by playing guitar more?
Physically, technically, I'd say probably not. But like certainly, like in terms of like how you express yourself musically, that happens.
Sure.
Like there's certain kinds of patterns, like chord pattern, like Western music. Like you have like changing chords. Hindustani music is like built on a drone. So it's like one key, it doesn't change, and the artistry is in how you work the scales within
almost like
that
prayer,
drone.
Right? Like,
yes.
like prayer. Like
yes, very much so. Very much so.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
There's selective ways that this can be used on top of Western instrumentation with Western chord pattern, and I've learned a zillion tricks about how to force this into something that it's not designed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you follow the Hindu religion at all? Do you follow any of those religious
sir.
or spiritual things at all?
No, sir.
Just for the instrument.
Yeah. The music's.
Is that unusual for, how about in India? Is when like people like Ravi Shankar and the tabla players, they do it out of sort of a spiritual thing, or is it an instrument?
I would say no. Like historically, like the
like yoga.
Well, it's like actually musicians. There's like we all know like India has like caste systems. Some of the castes are like like socially defined, and some of them are professionally defined. And there's like a caste of musicians from like it was like really super strong in like the 17th and 18th centuries, for example, when India was not one country but was a bunch of like little princedoms, and then the royalty would be the patrons of the musicians. So it was actually almost more of a secular culture than a religious culture.
So it wasn't a religious culture; it was a secular culture.
Yeah, but the music, the whole motivation for the music is like based on like the passion of spirituality and whatnot. So, but but a lot of the musicians they were like scamps. They were like rogues.
Of course, they're like musicians everywhere.
Yeah. Like the greatest.
Do the sadhus sit around and? The sadhus.
They were doing their own thing, man.
They don't come around. Do they listen to music while they're doing their sadhu thing?
No, maybe they just like click a few like finger symbols or something. But
I see.
The
sadhus are the hash-smoking homeless people of India who are a religious sect.
The holy men.
The holy men, right? Right.
Yeah.
And everybody gives them. They want little pieces of hash, and they smoke their little. What do they call those pipes? Chillums.
Chillums. Yeah.
Like that, right?
Yeah. Paul knows about this.
I remember my high school days very well. I still remember high school, even though many have forgotten. I still remember it through the haze.
Right.
And I remember loving that. We got a lot of the traditions of our smoking traditions came from our love of all this new music that came out of the 60s and 70s that were based on things like sitars and tablas and all this kind of thing, and just getting playing the chords a certain way to get that sort of phony Indian sound. Whatever.
Right.
We'll see the sold albums, they did it, right?
Yeah.
Right? So is there still that kind of interest?
I think that the culture of the world has become so eclecticized, if that's a word, in a degree that sounds like this, like they pop up in more places.
You can see them anywhere. It's a mix now. You can see somebody playing a sitar, and what you could in a rock band, and you could see them maybe playing in a classical environment or jazz environment or something like that.
Yeah. Church of Betty. There's also, of course, there's lots of different kinds of Indian music and lots of different kinds of Western music.
Right.
Like what Church of Betty did was like we were like kind of on the forefront of like pulling together like folk sounds of India with rock. Mm-hmm. It's this very specific thing, you know.
Is rock popular in India? Or more pop? They like pop.
They like pop better than rock.
Oh yeah,
they like dance music. Like they've got a lot of like really.
Yeah,
like,
that's on Slumdog Millionaires. Yeah, they like pop music.
Yeah,
right. Very good. You want to play something? Speaking of pop.
Yeah.
Wanna play something for us?
Sure. Shall I sing something?
Yes, do it.
All right, let's see.
Anything you want.
All right, let's see. What should I do? I know, because we were talking about what we've been talking about, I'm going to do a song. It's from an album of ours that's about 15 years old, but it seems topical and also like very much for the moment of today with everything that's going on in the world. This is called Revenge of the Hippies. Go for it. And so the world didn't turn out like you thought it should, yeah. You thought the world would follow you straight to the light, yeah. A diet of ideals don't put no supper on the table. Utopia sounds good in song, but a landlord wants to suck your money. Revenge of the hippies. Revenge of the hippies. All that speed you shot, baby. All those gardens you grew. All those records you bought, baby. All those strangers you screwed. All those t-shirts you dyed, baby. All those banners you flew. All those rules you defied, baby. All those slogans you spewed. Revenge of the hippies. Revenge of the hippies. And when the world didn't turn out like you thought it should, yeah. You bought a tie and embraced the enemy within, yeah. You're a paper tiger, as useless as a junkyard dog. Wake up in the morning, forget you once believed in love. Revenge of the hippies. Revenge of the hippies, yeah. Revenge of the hippies, yeah. Revenge of the hippies. Revenge of the hippies.
Great.
Peace.
Peace, bro. Yeah, right. Maybe they'll be back. Coming back, you're just in time, right? You know,
yeah.
the return of
it's time for the
different way to come back.
Hippies.
Yeah, the hippies are going to be coming back. I think some form of them. Just keep Charlie Manson away. He's This time he's in the White House, actually. So,
yeah.
Were you watching the Kavanaugh hearings today?
I saw.
I
just saw the little. I am. I was working, so I couldn't watch the hearings per se, but I saw the clips that are making around social media. That was a look of in his face of tremendous compassion. I really feel a lot of confidence that he's going to make a lot of compassionate law, like serving humanity. You could tell by the way he turned away from the
guy who lost his 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah. What a guy! What a guy!
Yeah. And how those prunes who were, especially on the Republican side, but all of them pretty much, Grassley and the rest of them.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. We paid our respects to the politics part of things. So okay, great. So gourd. So
yes.
How did you purchase? How did you come into connection with this?
This is a very special sitar because when I was studying with my Guruji in India, his name is Ravindra Goswami. And he's very widely respected, very highly established national sitarist. Yeah. And this sitar was made by, in a way that a lot of them are not made anymore. It was like a very, very handmade, handcrafted thing by a company in Calcutta. And Goswamiji basically called them up and he asked them to make this sitar for him. And what that did is it made them do like a really, really good job on it because they wanted to impress him, because they respected him, and they sold it to him for a local cost as opposed to what they would charge some like white boy from New York City coming over.
Right.
So
they know the difference.
So this
everybody knows these days.
Yeah, this was made in 1991. Care to take a guess what I paid?
I don't know, $150?
That's an excellent guess. It was $200.
$200? That's unbelievable. And how, if you had to pay the right price for that, how much would it be?
I haven't. This was 1991, and I haven't like bought one or looked at any in so long. I don't even know. I'm sure it would be thousands, though.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're usually like a music store would have had one. Then nobody bought it. It would just sit there until some rich kid would buy it or something like that.
Right.
Show off to his friends or something.
Right.
So wow. So you got it for that much. Now, what are the strings made out of? Are they steel strings?
They're actually piano. Yeah, they're steel strings. They're piano wire. They're piano wire.
Now, are they different? Like, do you buy them as different? Like, is it an A string, a B string, a D string, and all that?
Yep. You get them in coils, and then you just cut them off as you need them, and they all have different gauges, and you know which gauge serves which purpose.
So you know what note it is. So what are they? What's the scale on that?
Well, this is basically tuned into a really simple, C, which is most people tune them to D. I tune mine down because as I've gotten older, my voice has darkened a little bit, so I like to sing a little bit lower. So I have mine tuned to a C, and this is and all of the melodies are played on just this one bottom string. Yeah, so and these all drones. So like all the activity, it's all these two fingers working one string. So yeah.
And the other ones are just the accompanying.
Yeah, that makes the drone.
I see.
It makes the drone, and then the strings underneath kind of make the notes sound more quivery. Yeah.
I see. So how often do you have to change the strings?
They're pretty sturdy. They don't really break too terribly often.
So you just change them as they break, and not all of them all at once.
Yeah. Doing it all at once that's actually a really difficult challenge because this is the bridge. It's called a javari, and it actually moves around. And you don't want it to move around when you're playing it. But if you take all the strings off at once, then you have to kind of like do this little physics exercise to kind of figure out how to get the intonation back.
It's a lot of work. I can see that, right.
Yeah,
what is that made out of?
This is cow bone, like some really fancy sitars, like
cow
make them out of
bone
things
in
like
India,
ivory.
Hindu? They allow that?
Believe it or not, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, because they don't eat cows.
No, they don't. They don't.
But it's used here. And how about the inlay? What's the inlay?
That's that is probably cow bone also. There might be some plastic in there. I'm not quite sure, to tell you the truth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And wow, great. Well, we have about 4 more minutes. You want to play something else, or you can play us out if you want.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Play as long as you want. Just tune it or do anything you want. Anything you want to do.
Okay. We can have like a 4-minute tuning session.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. This is an old Church of Betty song. It's called Blood and Roses.
By the way, Chris Rael is our guest. Chris Rael is our guest, and he comes from the band Church of Betty, and he's playing a sitar.
Blood and roses, blood and roses. I'm blooming under the sun, shadow religion. A song awakens in the darkest corner of the heart. A song awakens in the darkest corner of the heart. A song awakens in the sweetest misery. Blood and roses, blood and roses. Blood pouring over the castle wall. Roses pouring up from the blood-spattered ground. Blood and roses, blood and roses. Blooming under the sun, shadow religion. A song awakens in the darkest corner of the heart. A song awakens in the darkest corner of the heart. A song awakens in the sweetest misery. Blood and roses, blood and roses. Ha! Blood pouring over the castle wall. Blood pouring over the castle wall. Blood pouring over the castle wall. Blood pouring over the castle wall.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Paul.
That's
great
the
to
show.
see you.